Hello, friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Gracia. If you're new here, I'm a wife, I'm a mother of one, pregnant with my second baby, and I'm also a homemaker. And on this channel, I just basically talk and show a lot of all of those topics and anything else I want to talk about. On today's video, like I told you guys in my last vlog, I really wanted to do a what I am doing differently for birth this time around. I did touch on my first birth experience on my previous video, but I do feel like I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. And I think reflecting back on my first birth, which I only probably did like this year, even though my son was born 2 years ago, there's a lot of things that only hit me at a later stage that I was only properly aware of. And I do think that a little bit of the naivety I had going into my first birth was grace, was God's grace, in the sense that like what you don't know can't really hurt you, if you get what I mean. Like if you don't know how people are supposed to take care of you, you're not really going to be of it. Like I'm actually trying to describe that ignorance is sometimes bliss. And I think a lot around my first birth, I was ignorant and I was a bit naive around what it actually would take to get the outcome that I wanted. And by God's grace, like it turned out well, in the sense that like I was well like recovered and my son was healthy and there was no emergencies around my birth. I think I just was not prepared and I was not supported as far as like having an unmedicated or like a natural labor. And that was the part that I really wanted, because I really want to know that I can do it, if that makes sense. For me, it's really about like knowing that I can do it. And I really want to, for myself, just kind of, it's like a personal goal. You know, people run marathons, people climb Kilimanjaro, people, I don't know what else people do, but it's like similar to that, in that like it's not an easy thing, but I also just want to achieve it as a personal goal, right? And before I jump into the things that I'm doing differently around this second birth, I do want to say that like I'm also holding these things with an open hand. I think that, especially as a Christian, kind of remembering as we make our plans, as we make our desires known, and as we decide that this is how we'd like for things to unfold, that we are ultimately not in control, that everything is in God's hands, and that ultimately everything that happens is for our good, even if in the moment it doesn't feel like it. I have trust and I have faith that God is the orchestrator of my life, the orchestrator of everything that happens. He's sovereign and he can turn anything into a good thing eventually, even if in the moment it doesn't seem like it's the best thing for you. So I am making my desires known, to God, to those around me, but at the same time I'm also remembering that God is sovereign, God is in control, and he knows more. Obviously he knows more than any of us could ever know. And remembering that how things are unfolding, I'm more importantly, beyond my desires and my dreams, I want to release that onto him. So it's like I want to hold the fact that like, look, this is my desire, but at the same time I also want to hold the fact that like, look, ultimately God is in control and he knows more than I could ever know. So I don't want to hold myself hostage. When I think back to my first birth, I don't think I was as mentally and emotionally prepared as I wanted to be. I don't think I knew what I was walking into, if I'm honest. I think that just in the modern world, we are not as close to birth as maybe we were historically. And there's a lot about birth, about childbirth, and about, I think, motherhood in general, that we have very unrealistic or just not very accurate ideas about. And we kind of get into it and we're so surprised because, like I said, I don't think growing up as young women we are as close. I don't know how many of us as young women can say that before we had our first baby we witnessed another birth. I don't think that's a common experience. At least for me, I know I had never witnessed a birth before like a live birth before I had my baby. A lot of what we imagine and expect for birth to be like can be very much influenced by obviously the media, by TV, by vlogs, and we just kind of see a certain version of it that may not be accurate for all of us. And I think that can kind of set us up for kind of going into something that we don't really understand and we don't really know, and we're not mentally and emotionally prepared for it. So I think when labor started for me around the first time, I was so overwhelmed by what I was experiencing. And at the same time, I was not surrounded by people who were giving me the information I needed in that moment to understand that you're not dying. Like you're fine, your baby is fine. What is happening is normal. Your body is laboring. How it's feeling is normal. And I think feeling like I was so in the dark and I didn't know what was happening and I didn't know how long this was going to be for. I didn't know what stage. I didn't know what anything meant. I had just watched a couple of videos here and there and just kind of thought that, well, that's just what's going to happen for me. And there are a lot of women who give birth like that, where they just kind of like go in and they're like, oh, I don't know what's going on. But I do think that your chances of having a more traumatic experience go up if you don't know what's like what you're going into. You know, you can walk away from it feeling like, what the hell was that? You know? So I do think that right now, one of the things I have been prioritizing this birth is exposing myself to real birth stories and not just like, just real birth stories and a variety, not just the ones that are like nice to see. I'm not traumatizing myself. I'm not saying that I'm looking for things that, you know, the worst case scenario and like consuming those, but I'm also trying to just listen to as many different more on the positive side birth experiences. And positive doesn't mean that nothing went wrong and there was no complications. You can have complications, things cannot go as planned, but it still overall be a positive experience. So I've been exposing myself to more realistic, more balanced birth stories and trying to understand that, oh, this is the thing that happens. So, and I think that that helps me prepare like emotionally and mentally for what I'm going into. I do obviously think that because I've labored before, that like I'm not going in completely blind. Like I know what contractions feel like. You know, I've experienced my water breaking. Like I know what those things feel like. So I'm not as blind as I was the first time. But I'm also trying to prepare myself by exposing myself to more realistic stories, and also at the same time understanding what is birth, like what is happening within my body. Because I'm one of those people that I think information and knowledge empowers me. Like I can go through anything if I know that, okay, you're not dying. Like, okay, you know, you're not dying. What's happening is normal. You're okay. I think when I am in a space where I'm dealing with something difficult, but I know that it's okay, like it's gonna be okay, you're okay, this is not a situation that you need to panic over. It does empower me to know that, okay, this is gonna come to an end eventually. And I'm okay. I just need to get through this. So I'm one of those people where information and knowledge really empowers me to be able to be resilient and to be able to like endure. So that's why I'm focusing on informing myself of like learning about birth, like learning about labor, like what is actually going on. I really am choosing to let go of fear and choosing to let go of control when it comes to birth this time around as well. Fear in the sense of like, I don't want to be afraid of something that God has designed and that every single one of us, you know, got here through birth, whatever that birth was. And that kind of ties into also letting go of control, in that like I can't control what's going to happen. I can only try and prepare the best that I can, but I need to also release and like know that like regardless of what happens, God is in control. You know what I mean? So those are the things that I'm trying to let go of as I go into the second birth, and then also being open to it. But this time around, I do want to, my hope and prayer is that I get the opportunity to go through a trial of labor that ends, that like, that I just mean that like I'm allowed to start birth spontaneously, as in like there's no induction, there's no nothing, and that I am like, able to actually have a successful VBAC. I really don't want to have a repeat C-section. Not that my first C-section was a horrible experience. It wasn't. I think it was a good experience as far as C-sections are concerned. I think I healed really well, but I don't want to have to go through that again. I really want to go through a spontaneous labor, which basically means that labor starts on its own. And the reason why is because, when it comes to VBACs after, which is a normal delivery after cesarean, your chances of having a successful VBAC go up. When you start your labor spontaneously, as in your body starts and the doctor doesn't give you either pitocin or anything like that to start your labor. The first time I went into labor, it was spontaneous, like I wasn't induced or anything, like it just started on its own. And so I'm really hopeful that this time around, the first time I went into labor, it started like 3 days before birth. 3 days before my due date, sorry. It started 3 days before my due. Well, technically it was like 3 days before birth, technically, because I did labor for a few days. But it was about 3 days before my due date, and I really hope that this time around my body's also, goes into labor on its own, and hopefully that also helps me like have a better chance at having a normal delivery this time around and not need to go in for a C-section because my labor is not starting on its own or my labor is not progressing. I also am hoping that the vibe around my birth is different. The first time I gave birth was at a birth center, which was such a beautiful facility, the Oxford midwifery unit. At the time I gave birth 2 years ago, it had just opened, and there was like only one midwife-led birth center that I knew of. I do like the idea of a birth center because it's a nice combination of a very cozy out of hospital feel, but at the same time you have access to all of the medical care that you would need if anything were to go wrong. And I think for me that's like a safe middle. I didn't want to give birth in a hospital because I don't like hospitals, but at the same time, like I'm also not one of those people that's like medical care is bad. No, like I do know that like medical care can and does save lives, and I wanted access to that, but I wanted to be in an environment where I felt comfortable. And the Oxford, like I'm thinking I'm gonna put pictures of their rooms up here. It's so beautiful. I actually ended up having a C-section because they did have a theater, that everything that they needed. This time around though, there's another birth center that's opened up very close to Oxford, which is Genesis maternity ward or something like that. This is also a birth center, and like I said with Oxford, I think the thing I like about birth centers is that they are a nice combination of a very homely, safe environment led by midwives. So it's not led by doctors or anything like that. Even though if you do need to have an operation, your OB obviously needs to be registered at this like facility, as well as your anesthetist. They have all of these professionals. It's just that it's not like a typical hospital. It's a birth center, and it's led by midwives who obviously are trained in, childbirth and stuff. So that's my hope this time. I'm either going to go with, yes, thank you. Is this for me? You want to take this outside? So that's what I'm going with this time around. I'm also hoping that I can labor for as long as possible at home, because from what I've learned, one of the bigger and more important hormones when it comes to childbirth, from what I've learned, again, this is what I've learned. I should probably also state that this is just things I've learned. I am no professional in this thing at all. I'm just learning. I'm just asking questions from my midwives and my doctors, and I'm just learning the best that I can and trying to equip myself. I'm not at all a professional. If I get something wrong, I'm so sorry. I literally am just telling you guys what I learned. I'm just a girl on the internet yapping. That's all this is, okay? But one of the things I have been learning is that one of the drivers of labor is oxytocin. And this is like that bonding hormone where it usually flourishes where you feel safe, you feel loved, you feel protected. And what that does, from my understanding, is that it because you feel safe, your labor is able to progress and your contractions are able to be more effective. And I think it kind of makes sense to me, because it's like, why would my body want to give birth in a space where it doesn't feel safe? Obviously, like, biology is trying to preserve human life. And if I am laboring, but I feel so much fear and tension and stress, I do understand how those hormones can send signals to my body where this is not a safe place, and it can slow down labor. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are encouraged to stay at home as long as possible, right? To stay at home and labor, because you feel safe at home. At home, you're more comfortable. It's your environment. You can also control the mood and the vibe. You don't have all of these medical professionals coming and asking you questions. Like, you're not in an environment that is new and can sometimes be stressful. And because of that, I think your labor can progress and you can get up to a point where, okay, now when I go to the hospital, because I'm so, I've progressed, I'm in a point where I'm like I think they usually say active labors when you want to get to the hospital. So that's about after 5 centimeters dilated. So about 0 to 4, 0 to 5 centimeters dilated, you are in early labor, which they encourage you to do this at home, so that when you do get to the hospital between 5 centimeters and upwards, you're in active labor. And at this point, the cervix is like, the hope is that you've made so much progress that you will continue to progress regardless of, what's happening, So I do think that one of the mistakes I made the first time around is that I rushed to the hospital at the first sign of contractions. I was like, I went to the hospital, I came back home, and because they were doing so many cervical checks, I also felt like that ended up ramping things up. Like, it was just a combination of just being naive and rushing and just not giving myself the space, kind of feeling like, I don't know why I felt this need that it needed to happen now. Like, I don't know why I felt this pressure that my birth needed to happen and it needed to happen right then and there. I don't know. I wasn't like chilled about it. I was like, okay, labor is starting. And this time around, I want to be more chilled about it. I want to trust that this is a process. Labor is hours long usually. And I want to be calm. I want to be more trusting of the design that God has made for childbirth and not feel this need to rush. And I think being in a calmer environment at home, setting up a space at home where I know I've got all the things that are going to help me calm down and relax, is going to help me have a better labor at home. And then when it does reach a point where it's like, I can't, like, I need to go, like, I feel like things are progressing, then yes, I'm gonna then move to my birth center and then continue labor, right? I don't wanna go too early and risk labor slowing down and having to go home, because the first time around I went too early, they sent me back, and the worst part of labor for me, hands down, was the car trip. God, the thing about being in the car is that you're so restricted. You're in so much pain, but there's like nothing you can do about it. You can't really move how you can move when you're like obviously in an open space. You're in a moving vehicle. And I don't want to keep making these trips up and down, up and down. They can also be stressful. Am I making progress? Am I not making progress? You know what I mean? So that's how I want to set up my birth environments at home as well, so that I can stay here as long as possible in labor and allow the oxytocin to flow through me, bond with my husband, relax, let labor progress naturally, feel safe. And then when I honestly feel like, oh my goodness, okay, it's time to go. And I do think there are signs, when it's like, okay, during that time when I'm laboring at home, we will obviously be in contact with our the medical professionals, like my midwife mainly. They'll let me know, like, okay, it's time, right? But my hope is that I can be here because I feel safest at home. I feel most comfortable at home. And I only go to the hospital when I know that I need to go to the hospital. Everything I'm learning, I'm also like forcing my husband, not forcing, but encouraging him, even though he might say he's being forced, but I'm encouraging him to consume a lot of the similar content that I'm consuming, so that he's obviously going to be with me the whole time. Him and my doula are obviously going to be with us during the entire duration of the birth. And I want to feel that he knows what I know. He is as aware of the signs. He knows what to do. Basically, I want to feel like he's also part of it with me together. I want it to be a shared experience, even though it can't be super shared because I'm the one that's laboring. But I do want it to be like a shared experience where he doesn't feel like he is removed from the situation, like he has no idea what's happening. Because I think that can also contribute to like tension in the room. When you don't know what's going on and you don't know what to do, that can also make you feel like, tension is rising. Yeah, when you don't know what's happening, I think that can contribute to a level of tension and fear and like, well, my wife's here like going through so much and I don't know what to do. So I do think empowering the both of us, so that we both know that, oh, this is what's happening, these are the signs to look out for. When I'm in the moment, I can just focus on the moment, knowing that he knows what he's supposed to do, he knows how he can support me, right? These are conversations we're having, these are things that we're practicing. As far as comfort measures, like one of the channels that I've been watching to help me prepare for birth has been Mama Stay Fit, and they have been super helpful as far as like just movements. I think movement is a big part of labor, and that brings me to my next thing that I want to do differently in this birth, and that is move more, right? Like move a lot more, in the sense of like, I don't want to stay in the same position. I think during my first birth, I spent a lot of time lying down. And I spent a lot of time in the shower, and I wasn't really like, I had a lot of tension in my body because I was scared. And I also was not moving my body in any way that I think could have encouraged, more the labor to progress. I think I was just hoping that when I got in the moment, I would just know what to do, which for some people that can help. I don't think that's the case with me, because I think discomfort can be so overwhelming for some people that you forget everything. And that's why having a partner, having a doula, having people who can be the calm presence to guide you and support you and be like, right now, you can't think straight. You're not thinking like clearly. You're being overwhelmed by everything that's happening within you. And in order to come down to like that level of like, oh, this is what I can do. These are ways in which I can help myself manage and cope through this, is very helpful. And I think is very important. The people you have around you is very important. And as for the people I have around me, I think I only want to have my husband, and I only want to have my doula, and of course my midwife will be there here and there, but she's not like there the whole time. Like she's not as hands-on as a doula, for example. And obviously my husband will be with me the whole time. And that's the only thing I want. I want to feel very uninterrupted. I want to feel very at peace. I don't want to feel like I'm being watched. I don't want to feel like I'm among people who I can't really trust, or among people who are judging me, among people who are going to offset the vibe. No, I want peace. I want calm. I want safety. And I think for me, having those people only having access to me at the time is something that I want to prioritize. And that's why it's important to me that my husband knows what he can do. Because if he's with me for hours and he doesn't actually know how to support me, I think that can also be like stressful for him. And then I think him being stressful might stress me out as well. There's a lot of different ways in which we can move and move our pelvis, move our bodies to help the baby rotate through the birth canal. And I don't expect myself that in the moments of labor, I'm just going to watch a YouTube video and figure out all of these movements. Like, I think labor can be very overwhelming sometimes, a lot of the time. So I have been practicing a lot of stretches, a lot of birth positions, a lot of laboring positions, a lot of pelvic positions, so that come birth, and a lot of these are me on my own, but also me supported by my husband. A lot of these are on the birth ball, so that come labor, I'm not like trying to figure out, oh wait, how does this position go? It's almost like second nature. I know that, oh, okay, I can do this lunge, I can do the squats, I can do this, I can use the ball in this way. Instead of being like, oh, okay, I have the birth ball, when I get to labor, I'll just know what to do, or they'll tell me what to do. They can do that, but it's also difficult to teach someone something in the middle of labor. Also to teach yourself as a new move, a new stretch, a new position when you're in the middle of labor, right? So I have been taking the time to practice different movements, different positions, and I think that is also an empowering thing, because I'm creating a bucket of things for me to reach for during labor, where I don't have to rely on learning or figuring out something new. I already have a toolkit almost of things that are helping me, that I hope help me get through it and manage the pain. I don't think any of those things are going to take away the pain or the intensity of labor. And that's something I'm also trying to understand. Like, it's going to be intense, likely it's going to be intense, because if you don't have any epidural, you're going to feel it and it's going to be intense. It's not child's play. It's not like a little headache or a little muscle tension. I felt it to an extent, and I know that it's not a joke. So you kind of have to prepare for it, right? And I don't want to feel like in that moment I have nothing to reach for. There aren't certain things I can try. I'm just trying to figure out what to do, how to survive. In that moment, I want to feel safe in knowing that there are things that I can reach for to help me manage. For the birth itself, I really hope that I can birth in water, because I'm so cheesy. I really want a water birth. I'm not gonna lie. I think the first time around I also wanted a water birth. And I think my midwife at the time she didn't seem very supportive of it. I don't know. But I really want to have a water birth, because I think it's so beautiful and so peaceful. And I love the water. If you know me, I love everything water related. I love the ocean. I love pools. I love rivers. I love streams. I love water. So this idea of being able to give birth in water has just always been a dream of mine. And I mean, I'm not attached to it in the sense of like if I don't give birth in water, then I'm gonna feel so disappointed. But it is like the ultimate dream for me. If you ask me, what is your ideal birth? I'd be like, I want to give birth in water. And both of the birth centers have these like water birthing tubs that are so big and so beautiful. And I want to put flowers in there. Look, I want to make it, I want to romanticize it, even though in the moment it probably won't feel, you know. But I know looking back on the footage and the pictures, which I'm going to encourage my husband to like, I don't want him to be focused on just taking pictures. I have been thinking about getting a birth photographer, but I don't know if it's completely necessary because I don't want every single part of the thing photographed. I think getting, some snapshots and some clips here and there on my phone, I think that'll satisfy me. I want flowers in the water, I want a moment. Even though it's not gonna be like that. In the moment it won't feel romantic. But I would love to give birth in one of those water tubs. That's the ideal for me. And to also have, that's first skin to skin, that golden hour with my baby where they're just on my chest. And a lot of women describe that after you give birth, you get this rush of like oxytocin, this bonding hormone. Your body just releases like the hormonal change before and after birth is crazy in and of itself. But that's what I want to have. When I'm talking to God about my birth, I'm telling God, oh my God, I want all the vibes. Why not? Why not? So during on the birth itself, as I said, I do want to specifically have a water birth. I want to, at the end of my labor, when I'm about to give birth, be in the water, have the flowers in the water, have a lot of calm energy, a lot of calm music. I do want to play some hypno birthing tracks in the back, positive affirmations, worship music. For me, those are things that really ground me. Like worship and prayer, I know myself. I'm like, the only thing that can make me overcome that, the overwhelm and the intensity of labor is worship. And I do think that like it's different for us in the sense that like our mothers and a lot of our mothers and a lot of the old women around us did give birth naturally. But I do think that like for a lot of them, they weren't in spaces that were as easy to give out C-sections as maybe in South Africa or in Johannesburg or more modernized places. I think C-sections can be more attainable if you stay in a more modern part of the world, modern city, westernized city. So I do think that like if left alone, women could labor for like 5 days and eventually give birth. But because of how a lot of our hospital systems are set up, how medicalized birth is, I do think that for me and the outcome that I want, if I don't want to end up with another C-section, I need to prepare, because it can be very tempting in the moment when you're feeling the intensity and your doctor or somebody comes and says, ish, dude, you can just have a C-section. You're just going to say yes, especially if you don't know, right? So it can be very tempting. It's not like they're just going to let you labor until they also feel like, ah, dude, it's really going, hey man, I'm tired. You can find yourself in that. So that's why I feel like if I don't prepare and I don't mentally like know how to advocate for myself and communicate what I want and what I don't want, that I might just be tempted in the moment, which I think is what happened the first time. After so much has happened, and somebody comes to me that like, we could just, let's just do this. Let's always try and scare me. And there's nothing wrong if there is, like, obviously if there's an emergency, but that wasn't the case the first time around. I didn't experience an emergency. The baby was fine. I was fine. I was just so exhausted because I had not prepared. I had not supported myself. I had not known what I was getting myself into, that when they had suggested, hey, your labor's not progressing, let's do the C-section. I was like, okay, cool. I did breastfeed my first baby like from the jump. As soon as I gave birth, she latched pretty well, so that was good. And that's what I wanted to take a time around: skin to skin contact, breastfeeding from the jump. Like it was beautiful, post birth, to see my baby and to be able to have him so close to me. And that's what I want the second time around. I don't want anyone to take my baby anywhere. I don't want anybody to know it's my baby. It's my baby, okay? I also told my husband, like, don't let anybody take, because the first time around, because I was in surgery, they did give me my baby for a bit, and then they gave him to my husband so that they could finish up with me and like take me upstairs, take me back to my room and stuff. But he was with my husband, and immediately when I was back in my room, he was on me, he was feeding, and I do want to keep my baby as close to me as possible as soon as birth has happened, because it is good for bonding, it's good for your breastfeeding journey, it's good for the baby, and it's just good for your emotions, knowing that you went through all of this and you have your baby close to you, instead of just like going through all of that and then you don't even know where your baby is. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I've also been thinking around how I want to be supported postpartum, like after I give birth and when I come home. I'm hoping to not stay at the hospital for too long, maybe a day, probably a day max, maybe half a day. But the first time I gave birth after cesarean, I stayed at the hospital for 2 days. To give birth on Tuesday, I went home on Thursday. Um, this time around, though, if I do have the normal delivery, I will probably stay at the hospital for about 12 to 24 hours after birth. And I've been thinking a lot around support when I do come home, because I will have a toddler. My husband will be on leave for a while, which is good. But I will have a toddler to take care of, and I will have my family around me, my mom, my sister, and I'm looking forward to having that support. But I've also been thinking about, as far as like what I want to prioritize. I want to prioritize rest. I'm one of those people that struggles to rest. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I struggle to just do nothing. Like it's like if I feel fine enough, I want to get up and do something, and then I think I end up tiring myself out too much, and then I'm back in bed. So I really want to prioritize resting. I want to allow myself to be taken care of. Again, one of those people that doesn't like to be taken care of because I feel like a burden. But I want to prioritize just doing nothing and enjoying that bubble, at least for the first week after birth. Just know that like there's not a single, I don't even want to lift my finger. I don't lift my finger you know so I know that postpartum, when I come home, it's just rest, it's me and baby, and that's the only thing I'm going to care about. Recovering from 9 months, because child, the way I feel right now, I need to recover. I already know that I'm going to need to recover, and I'm looking forward to not being pregnant anymore, if I'm being honest. But prioritizing rest, prioritizing nourishing my body, prioritizing the breastfeeding journey, prioritizing bonding with my baby, spending as much time with them as I possibly can, holding them, cuddling them, kissing them. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to meet them. Oh my gosh. And speaking of my baby, I also said I'm going to do a little gender reveal. Baby number 2 is a drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. A girl. I'm gonna be a girl mom. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to meet my daughter. I'm so excited. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to have another baby. Like, being a mother is, having kids, I don't care what anybody says, the best thing. Being a mom, a present mom where I get to see my kids every day. I've counted all day, every day. I counted a privilege, such a privilege, because having my home filled with the sound of my toddler, like, I love being a mother. I love my babies, both of them. Even this one that I have not even seen her face yet. I love her. I love her. I love her so much. And I count myself so blessed to be able to be a mother, to be able to mother how I've been given the opportunity to mother. So I have also been taking this time to just be so grateful to God. Just say thank you, God, that I'm able to enjoy motherhood. Like, I'm able to enjoy that. I love my kids so much, and I can't wait to meet my baby. And that regardless, at the end of all of this, at the end of labor, birth, all of that stuff, the only thing that matters is her being fine and me being able to have her with me. And that's what's ultimately more important. And that's why I don't want to hold on to all of my visions and my water births too tightly. If there is an emergencies and my doctors are like, look, it's not safe, I'm also open to being, okay, you know what? If it's not safe, why would I risk my child's life? Why would I risk my life? If the safest option is cesarean again, then it's cesarean again. Do you know what I mean? So I'm also not, I don't want to make an idol out of what I want my second birth to be like. I don't want to make it an idol, and as if it doesn't happen, then it's the end of the world. Because maybe I have an experience that is nothing like what I've described, but it ends up being the safest experience for me and my baby. How can I not be grateful to God that my child is here? My child is healthy. Every day, every week that goes by, and I'm like, oh, another week. I'm grateful to God for sustaining her life. Like, I'm grateful to God for sustaining my life, grateful to God for sustaining her life. And I know that what I'm experiencing right now is a blessing, it's a joy, it's a gift. And nobody can make me feel any other way about it. I don't care. I'm so happy. I love being a mother. I love carrying my baby. No matter how tired I feel every day, the one thing I look forward to at this point is just seeing my baby girl's face, meeting my baby, being a family of four. Like, I'm just so excited for the next season of life, and I know it'll come with its challenges, but I'm so happy, and I know how blessed I am, and I'm very grateful to God for that. So I wanted to end it on that note. I am going to post more pregnancy, nesting, vlog type videos where I probably will touch on a bunch of other things, more details about maybe my breastfeeding journey, about all of that. I'm going to try and film a birth vlog, but not a birth vlog of every little thing. I'm probably going to do like a birth story where I probably sit down and tell you guys what happened, and then try and insert little parts of my birth experience here and there. I don't imagine myself recording the beginning to end. I don't know if I can. I don't know. I don't have any. I don't know who's going to do that for me. So I probably will do like a sit down, a birth recap, and probably have different parts of my birth. But I'm so excited to share this journey with you guys. I'm so excited to go through this journey. And by God's grace, I get the answered prayer. I get the prayer that I want. I get the birth that I want. But even if it is not so, God will still be glorified. As long as my baby's in my hands, that's ultimately all that matters. My baby's healthy, my baby's safe, I'm healthy and I'm safe, and my family is together. That's all that matters at the end of the day. With that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye.